So Matt Rhule, obviously head coach of Nebraska, came out on a press conference and said that he's considering canceling Nebraska's spring game due to tampering, saying it will not be a traditional spring game due to what happened last year. Before I get your comments on this, Sean, I want to show Matt Rhule's comments on this and what he really said about this. Take a listen.
That yet, but I'll be honest with you, I highly doubt it. And I think it's really fundamentally, I hate to say it like this, it's really because, last year we're one of the more televised, we were one of the more televised spring games, and I dealt with a lot of people offering our players a lot of opportunities after that. So to go out and bring in a bunch of new players and then showcase them for all the other schools to watch, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The word tampering doesn't exist anymore. It's just absolute free, open, common market.
Word tampering doesn't exist anymore. Sean, I just got to get your take. Is this where we're at in college football? We got to cancel spring games just because players are getting poached? What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's brilliant by Matt. This is the ultimate bait and switch, right? The spring game in college has kind of become like the Pro Bowl game in the NFL, right? It's not what it used to be. The intensity doesn't exist anymore. Most of the marquee guys don't participate. So there is a tampering problem. So what better platform to use without it looking like you're whining about tampering? But basically you're saying tampering is costing us the opportunity to host a spring game because of what happened last year. So it's the ultimate bait and switch. Put something out there that used to be significant, the spring game, and switch it up with what you're really trying to get out there, which is that teams are looking at our tape and they're tampering. They're basically handpicking our best players based on video. And to let you know that that's what this is, what the hell does Matt Rhule mean? We had one of the more televised spring games. Everybody's spring game is on.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, oh, man, I just thought it was interesting seeing that because Matt Rhule has been one to, at least last season, and we'll dive into this season. Last season, Nebraska was among, I think, the lowest at the bottom of the pool when it came to transfers in. I think they only brought in like 10 kids. Now this season, I don't know if you've seen, but Nebraska is putting together quite a transfer portal class, over 16 commits and more. This is kind of a testament to adapt or die. You're seeing coaches like Matt Rhule, Dabo Swinney, and others who have in the past elected to not use the portal now are adapting and using it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, here's what's happened. Like, you have to evolve and pivot when your environment shifts if you want to compete for the ultimate prize. And what Dabo found out to a great extent, to what Matt Rhule found out to a lesser extent, just because the expectations are drastically different in Clemson and in Nebraska, you can do it the old school way. You can't get enough players to win it all doing it that way.
Why do you say that?
Well, because now you're operating and competing on an uneven playing field. When you have holes and gaps on your roster, instead of going out like everybody else and having to bring in a class of 25 to 30 high school kids, maybe 5, 6 of them play, but we develop the rest of them. We kind of know that we're going to have those guys all the way through their redshirt senior year. Right. Now we can really you understand the deficiencies on our roster and be prepared for them, before they arrive. You can't do that anymore. If everybody around you, if they graduate a top 10 pick at right tackle and they go get another top 10 pick at right tackle that's already played 35, starts in college, you won't be able to compete with that. So the environment forced Dabo to shift. Because trust me, Dabo does not want to get involved in NIL. He does not want to get involved in the transfer portal. I don't think he has a problem with the collective, because the collective is something that he still has some semblance of control and understanding of. NIL is a completely different animal. So,
yeah,
you got to adjust now. You got to adjust until they change the rule.
Absolutely, adapt or die. This is what the NCAA wanted. JB and I talked about extensively comparing Matt Rhule to Deion Sanders and the way they were building the program kind of differently. You saw Pryman bring in like 35 kids. Matt Rhule on the opposite end. Now we're kind of seeing a little bit of a shift. Obviously, Colorado's also bringing in some kids, but now Nebraska's dipping into the portal a little bit. Before we move on, the Nebraska side of things, obviously they were led by true freshman quarterback, 5-star Dylan Raiola last season. And they had an offensive coordinator switch mid-season. Now are looking to head into next season with Dana Holgorsen as their offensive coordinator. What are you looking to see out of Nebraska next season? Obviously, I think there was a lot of noise about Dylan Raiola possibly entering the transfer portal, but that seems to have calmed down. What are your thoughts on them switching offensive coordinators midseason and now heading into next season seemingly with the same staff?
I mean, that's the animal, that college coaching is. NFL in some ways as well. I'll say this. Nebraska's biggest question mark to me is Dylan Raiola.
Why do you say that?
His development is going to determine their future. Like, he behaves and acts like a kid that's really, really good right now. The reality is he's pretty talented and very inconsistent.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't take that next step this offseason from what he's responsible for, then that's going to be a huge impediment for Matt Rhule in that program. Now, if he does, then they should compete for a Big Ten title. But I can just tell from afar some of his mannerisms, some of his personality quirks, his demeanor, how he handles success and failure. He's still a very immature kid that I think thinks in his mind he's better than what he's actually done production-wise in college.
That's a fair thing to say. And, I get it. I mean, he's 19 years old. Probably he's still really, really young. And obviously coming out of 5-star, kind of made some noise committing to Nebraska over Georgia. I see why you say that for sure. This is just interesting, man. I thought all the noise with Rhule possibly entering the transfer portal. It's interesting. I'm glad that he ended up staying. I think that, yes, he does need to develop at Nebraska. All the Mahomes antics of him doing the same shit as Mahomes and all this shit, I don't know. I think he eventually is going to have to develop his own stick, or else, I mean, like you said, it does come across as that for sure. You got any problem with him acting like Mahomes?
I mean, I don't have a problem with that being his mentor. I mean, hell, I didn't have a problem with Kobe mimicking Jordan.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Everything Kobe did was a mirror image of what Michael Jordan did. That's why I don't get upset with an athlete. But Kobe's work ethic was such that he wanted to go out and prove that he was worthy of copying those mannerisms. Here's where I think, at least thus far, the disconnect with Raiola is. And then I think some of this is Matt Rhule and them got involved in the portal. They got to get better around it. Nebraska's been a program, as great as Nebraska has been, have they ever who are their top 3 wide receivers?
Couldn't tell you. I think Jalen Lloyd and some other cats, but I don't know. I heard Lloyd might be entering the portal. I'm not too sure.
No, but I'm talking about all time. I'm not even just talking about this. When they were great, they played great defense. They had a Heisman caliber option quarterback, and they had a stable of tailbacks, and they act like they invented the fullback position. That was what the crux of their success was built on. They've never really been wide receiver U. Mm-hmm. Now they got to figure out how to get the Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Smith down at Ohio State. They got to figure out how to get this caliber talent to Lincoln in order to really give Raiola the best chance to lead them to a championship.
Absolutely. Well said.
Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State. Yeah. But no, I agree with you. They definitely got to build around Raiola. I mean, I like you mentioned, they had a good run game last year. Obviously, Ivy the running back, but definitely got to build around him on that offensive line and maybe get another weapon on the outside for Raiola. But we'll see with Nebraska. We'll continue to discuss them a lot this offseason.